In this video, we'll introduce and define projectile motion, then explore one-dimensional projectile motion in detail. We'll examine the characteristics of the trajectory of one-dimensional projectiles, and will then apply this theory to two examples, solving for the projectile's initial velocity and the projectile's time in the air. A projectile is an object that is propelled into the air and is acted upon only by the force of gravity during its flight. For one-dimensional projectiles, we can consider two scenarios under this definition. First, a projectile may be an object that is propelled vertically downward, then falls downward in free fall. Second, a projectile may be an object that is propelled vertically upward. The projectile will travel upward to a maximum height, then fall downward in free fall. In both scenarios, the object moves only vertically. Regardless of the direction and magnitude of the projectile's initial velocity, every projectile will accelerate downward at the same rate, 9.8 meters per second squared, the acceleration of free fall near the Earth's surface, provided there is no air resistance acting on the projectile. To understand the characteristics of a projectile's trajectory, we'll consider a one-dimensional projectile that is initially propelled upward and lands at the same height from which it is launched. These projectiles will accelerate downward, meaning that as they travel upward, they slow, reaching a maximum height, then speed up as they fall from this height. A vertical displacement as a function of time graph shows this motion as a parabolic shape. The projectile's trajectory is symmetrical, and the projectile reaches its maximum height halfway through its flight. Throughout their flight, projectiles accelerate downward at a constant rate due to the Earth's force of gravity. If air resistance acts on the projectile, the rate at which it accelerates downward changes. We'll explore this qualitatively later in this video. Projectiles slow as they move upward and speed up as they fall downward because of this acceleration due to gravity. If we plot a projectile's velocity as a function of time, we see this decrease in positive velocity as it moves upward, and increase in negative velocity as it falls downward. At a projectile's maximum height, it changes direction from moving upward to falling downward. The instantaneous velocity at this maximum height is 0. However, the projectile continues to accelerate downward at 9.8 meters per second squared. A common misconception that students have is that when the projectile stops momentarily at its highest point, both its velocity and acceleration are 0. It's important to understand that only the velocity is 0 at this point. On our velocity time graph, we can see the slope, which is the acceleration, is constant throughout the projectile's flight. Even when the projectile has an instantaneous velocity of 0, its acceleration does not change. Recall that the instantaneous velocity of an accelerating object can be determined by the gradient of a tangent line on a displacement time graph. On our displacement as a function of time graph, the gradient of a tangent at the projectile's maximum height is 0. Projectiles have symmetrical trajectories, so the magnitude of the instantaneous velocity is equal at equal heights. On our displacement time graph, we can examine the gradient of tangent lines drawn at the same vertical displacement. These gradients are the same, though one is positive when the projectile is traveling upward, and one is negative when the projectile is falling downward. Let's look at an example where we apply this understanding of one-dimensional projectile motion. A stone is thrown vertically upward and reaches a maximum height of 6.2 meters above its initial height. We must determine the velocity with which the stone was thrown. We'll follow the same problem-solving steps we would use for any uniform acceleration problem. First, we'll draw a diagram of the problem and label any known and unknown information. The stone will accelerate downward as it travels upward to its maximum height. It may seem we don't have enough information to solve for the initial velocity, but remember, at its maximum height, the projectile will have a velocity of 0. So, we know the displacement, the acceleration, and the final velocity, and need to solve for the initial velocity. We want to choose a formula with these variables. In our uniform acceleration video, we explored the 4 formulas you are provided in your data booklet. Here are the formulas. We're looking for a formula that contains final velocity, initial velocity, acceleration, and displacement. We see this is the formula v squared equals u squared plus 2as. We need to rearrange this formula to solve for initial velocity, u. The final velocity is 0, so we can cancel out the v squared term and rearrange for u, giving us the initial velocity is equal to the square root of -2 times the acceleration and displacement. It's important to note here that we'll define downward as a negative direction and upward as a positive direction. This means that the acceleration is negative 9.8 meters per second squared, and the displacement is positive 6.2 meters. The product of two negative numbers is positive, so we're able to take the square root, giving us an initial velocity of 11 meters per second. Let's look at another example wherein we examine a projectile's symmetrical flight. A tennis ball is hit straight upward off of a racket at a velocity of 12 meters per second. How long will the tennis ball remain in the air, assuming it impacts the racket at the same height from which it was initially hit? Again, we'll start with a labeled diagram. We know the initial velocity and the acceleration. Once again, it seems we don't have enough information to solve the problem. That is, until we remember that the ball's flight is symmetrical. When the ball strikes the racket, it will be at the same position as when it left the racket. That is, the ball's displacement for the flight is 0. Since we are solving for time, we need to select a formula that contains time, acceleration, initial velocity, and displacement. This formula is s equals ut plus 1/2 at squared. It would appear that to solve for time, we would need to employ the quadratic formula. However, because the displacement is 0, we can simplify this formula instead. Time is common to both terms on the right side of our equation. If we set the displacement to 0 and factor out time, we now have a very solvable formula. Technically, we'll get two answers, because the ball will have a displacement of 0 twice during its flight, before it leaves the racket and when it falls back onto the racket. So this equation will be true when time is equal to 0, that is to say, the displacement is 0 before the ball leaves the racket. This equation will also be true when the initial velocity plus 1/2 the product of acceleration and time is equal to 0. The time here is the ball's total time in the air, or the time for the ball to reach the maximum height and fall back to its initial height. This is what we want to solve for. We can rearrange for time, which is -2 times the initial velocity divided by acceleration. Substituting our values, we see that the ball's time in the air is 2.4 seconds. Now, projectile problems can be solved in numerous ways depending on how we interpret the problem and what information we use in our calculation. The key to solving any projectile problem is to understand the projectile's trajectory. Let's examine the same problem, but this time, instead of considering the symmetry of the trajectory in terms of displacement, we can consider the symmetry in terms of velocity. The velocity with which the ball impacts the racket will be the same magnitude, but in the opposite direction of the velocity with which the ball left the racket. That is, the ball's final velocity is -12 meters per second. We can solve the same problem, but now with a different equation, one that contains time, acceleration, initial, and final velocity. V equals u plus at. Rearrangement and substitution gives us the same answer, 2.4 seconds. We've considered only projectiles that don't have air resistance in this video. Most problems you'll encounter, especially calculations, will not involve air resistance. However, you are expected to understand the impact of air resistance on a projectile's flight. Here we have a projectile's trajectory without air resistance. We've included a slight horizontal displacement of the ball on its upward and downward trajectory simply for visual clarity. The flight is completely symmetrical and vertical. If we consider air resistance, this changes. On the way up, the ball will experience two downward forces opposing its upward motion: the force of gravity, which is constant throughout the flight, and a drag force from the air, which is directed downward as the ball moves upward. This means that on the way to its highest point, the ball will accelerate downward at a rate greater than 9.8 meters per second squared. At its maximum height, the ball still has an instantaneous velocity of 0 and therefore experiences no air resistance. This means that at this point, it accelerates downward at 9.8 meters per second squared. As the ball begins to fall, the direction of the drag force acting on it again opposes motion, but this time is in the opposite direction of the force of gravity. This means that as the ball falls, it accelerates downward at a rate slower than 9.8 meters per second squared. The flight is no longer symmetrical. The result is that the ball reaches a lower maximum height, is in the air for a shorter period of time, and lands with a slower final velocity. That wraps up our introduction to projectile motion in one dimension. All projectiles accelerate downward due to the Earth's gravitational force and have an instantaneous velocity of 0 at their maximum height. When no air resistance is present, projectiles have symmetrical flights with equal speeds at equal heights. We can use our formulas for uniform acceleration to solve problems involving one-dimensional projectiles.